Oakley dokley. I'm ready, man. Whenever we do this, you just give me the thumbs up, man. All right. Thanks, man. I'll keep watching here until we're fully up in SMUG. Have like a two-step process to these things, but I like to just talk. So anyone who's joining in here doesn't just join to silence. I want you guys kind of enjoy my smooth voice here, which hopefully is smooth at least. Yeah, good stuff. Hope everyone's having a great April. We're excited to bring this show to you guys today, and hopefully you'll learn a bit about what's coming out. Give you guys a chance to ask us some questions and kind of go from there. So good stuff. I'll give just another kind of 30 seconds here, let people kind of hop in as we kind of go through here. But we were kind of joking around right before this, just about the whole making sure you look presentable, right? It's kind of it's an important thing when you go on camera, and all of you guys that we've talked about in the past, like the technician motto and what it takes to be a good technician, and it's really not that difficult, right? But a lot of those don't, and so just kind of want to be one of those reminders, right? As the weather gets nicer, gets warmer, especially those doing exterior cleaning. Oftentimes uniforms can include shorts and things like that. So I mean, maybe there's a right pair of shorts and a wrong pair of shorts, right? And so making sure that you have those things lined up in your SOPs. I've had actually quite a few discussions with this for a lot of users, kind of when I go to these events. That's difficult sometimes when it comes to uniforms, and especially when you're in the hiring phase and what you really want to purchase for them and what they can kind of allow on their own and what standards you have and so forth. So I'll throw that at the beginning, just like a tidbit. A lot of you guys I know struggle with that. So something to kind of keep in mind as it warms up, right? Because the last thing you want also is your technicians, dying of heat stroke, right? When they're up on the ladder and they're wearing long pants, it's 100 degrees out, right? So anyways, that's my little, I guess, nuggets. Today we'll kind of get started. I saw Paul in here. Hope you're doing well, Paul. Everyone else, you can say hi as you guys jump in. We've got a couple of great things. I know it's spring, and I hope those spring campaigns are flying. It's a very common time, especially depending on industry, but very common time where things have ramped up in March and April, right? And want to make sure you guys have spring campaigns going, whether that's email, whether it's direct mail, whether that's text messages, whether maybe you've got some call lists that you're doing, whatever it might be. Hope you guys are doing those. And if you're not, or if you maybe think you need to improve on that, there's a webinar we did last month. We talked about it the end of March. We did a webinar with Kurt over at Responsibid, and it's really just talking about building for retention and the importance behind it, and making sure that your company is built around that so you're not losing those clients you've worked so hard to get, right? And so if you're interested, it's about 45 minutes to an hour long, I believe. You can kind of fast forward to the parts that maybe are pertinent to you. But I think it was a great discussion overall. We've gotten a lot of good feedback from it. So if you guys are interested, Justin's going to drop that link in the chat, and so you guys can go have a listen when you have time. So we're going to talk about roadmap, kind of what's coming up, and we're going to talk about some mobile releases, and we're going to talk about some SMUG posts, and we're going to talk about. I'm going to do a quick feature dive. We haven't done that for a couple of episodes, and I actually had a couple of questions about it this month, so I figured, you know what, I'll throw it in. It's really quick. It's a feature that. It's one of those things that it's useful. It's kind of a set it and forget it a lot of times, and so maybe draw attention to that a little bit today. So what are we talking about first? Mobile app. So we have the 1.4.15 release. This only released to iOS. The Android fix is coming next week. And the reason we split it, I can get into if you guys really want to know. But it's really just a timing thing as far as some changes that were involved there. So, but there's a lot of bug fixes here. It also set up our payments beta for a couple of users. So Alan actually is one of them. So hello, Alan. So that was for you, sir. But there are some quality bug fixes in here that I think some of you guys have been kind of asking for a little while. So there's a big one that some of you guys, when you're typing your notes, the keyboard was getting in the way. So that part is fixed. The address helper widget not auto selecting, like when you've actually tapped to select that address, that was an intermittent issue, and that's been resolved. There's also line breaks on the email editor. That was another problem, I think, when you guys were writing your own emails. And then we polished up some things on the schedule and a few other things too. So check out those release notes. The Android fix, like I said, is coming next week. That'll have those bug fixes there as well. And then we're moving on to a fairly large release that we're excited to get out, which is actually an upgrade to our React Native, which is our architecture that we use so that we can develop for both iOS and Android at the same time. We're doing a big upgrade to that. And so that's going to open up a few things for us. It's going to help us resolve a couple of ongoing issues that have been going on. We're also very vehemently working on solving this login issue. And I think anyone who's listening here can probably pop some champagne talking about this. We've gone through a couple iterations where we tried to fix this. Neither of them worked. We are looking at another approach right now. And so far, we're getting potentially positive results from it. So when that is out, we will all celebrate together. I know that's been a big annoyance for a while now. So basically getting it to work how it's supposed to. If you guys are in the app every day, the process is supposed to remember you at least for up to a week. If it's been more than 24 hours since your last login, it would ask you to log in the morning, but then it'll be good the rest of the day. And that's really the goal, is that worst case, you log in the morning. Other than that, you're in, and then ideally it's going to last the entire week, assuming you guys are in there every day. So that'll be big. There's also some changes we're planning on working that involve biometrics and things like that to help the login process also be smoother. We can all agree that logging on a mobile manually sucks compared to desktop. So that's another thing we're looking at in the not too distant future as far as the roadmap goes. And then we're also going to be doing some work tied to payments, which I'll get into here in just a second. So yeah, a lot of big, exciting things going on there. And we're going to be churning through a bunch of mobile stuff. We've expanded the team, and we're looking at pushing things through faster. And so getting a lot of these things kind of off the plate and getting some really kind of big features coming your guys' way very, very, very soon. So excited for that. As far as the roadmap in general, I already hinted at payments. That is the big thing right now. It's we're nearing our commercial launch for that. Right now we're in beta. A few users have already signed up and are helping us. We've got more that are coming through. So we're super excited about that. There's basically two phases to this. So the first phase is just getting kind of our backend processor changed over and kind of smoothing out and improving some of the UI and things you guys are already using. So anyone in beta can kind of attest to, hey, yeah, it's pretty much the same. Like I'm not, in a foreign world necessarily when I'm in this, but so some things are smoother, right? It's a little bit cleaner in terms of choosing whether you're saving a card on file or just doing a one-off. And then the UI just on the payment modals themselves has been cleaned up a little bit. So remember, this includes both ACH and credit card. Right now for beta, we're just looking at US only, and also just organic clients, so non-corporate clients. Any of the corporate users that we have, if you guys are listening, there's a little bit more we have to go through on that end before anything opens up on that side. So yeah, we're just testing initially on our end. We'll kind of figure out the kinks there, and then look elsewhere once everything's a little bit more polished, right? So that's kind of the goal. If any of you guys are listening and are interested and do want to, maybe sign up for that beta, either comment here if you're listening live, or send something out to our support team, either email or call them, and they can get you kind of either to learn more, or they can get you with someone who can actually get you signed up. So the big part of that, though, isn't just the beta, though there are some exciting things there too that aren't necessarily tied to the UI. We listened to you guys in terms of what was really hurting you guys with our previous PaySafe integration, and that was time to settlement and actually depositing the money. That was sometimes taking up to 5 business days for some of you guys, which is just, I think in some cases even a little bit longer than that, which was crazy. And that's one of the big things we've looked at here. It's like making sure that we've got faster time to settlement, faster time to deposit, and we're looking at working on some other potential features as well, depending on what the feedback is from the team. So, for example, if anyone listening was interested in potential surcharging, what do I mean when I say surcharging? Having an option to set up for your integration, the ability to basically pass on fees to your customers. So I've had a lot of discussions about this. I've had discussions with those who are adamantly against it. And I've had conversations with those who are all about it, and that if they want to have a discount or whatever, they offer cash or check options or anything else like that. So it's not universally available to everyone. Certain states have different rules. We have to kind of abide by whatever our payment facilitator allows us to. But if that was something you were interested in, hypothetically, give us a comment, something like that, or reach out to our support staff and let them know there that, hey, I heard Adam blabbing about this. I'm definitely interested, something like that, right? And you can actually quote that verbatim. Might get a laugh out of one of our support reps. But yeah, so it's little things like that. We have more control kind of into what the development might look like for some of these things. And so that's really what we're going to do is we're going to get this rolled out. We're going to get this smooth. We're going to have a great kind of back end merchant that we're working with. We're going to have a great relationship with them. And we're going to offer you guys A+ support on both sides. Because that was the other big thing, right? With I felt like our support was lacking when it came to our previous, which was PaySafe. And so we're excited to offer, more towards our world-class support. So Alan said, give myself a 3% raise. So offset that, right? You guys can all throw that my way. I'm totally joking, of course. But yeah, exciting stuff there. So the second part of this is something you guys have been talking about for a while, and that is tied to card readers. And so the second part of this that we'll be working on in parallel, kind of as this thing goes towards launch, is that we are working with a provider to offer you guys a very cool, sleek, modern card reader. Has a couple of options with it. It's something that you guys can actually purchase an OtterBox case you can attach it to. So it's just one unit you can attach to your phone. You don't have to worry about having a whole second unit in your truck or whatever. Things like that. If you are part of the beta, you'll have first access to this and maybe some other benefits there as well. Wink, wink. So again, if that interests you and that pushes you maybe towards beta, let us know. But everyone else, it's really just having the option, right? And so that's really something exciting that we're going to have to offer you guys. And this is not, once we get this out, that's not done, right? We have goals in the future about where this turns into, where it's maybe we have the tap to pay, the soft POS option as well, right? And so we wanted to give you guys the option now because the soft POS is a very long project. But yeah, we really want, we know that payments are going to help drive a lot of this. We know that as the way that we handle payments changes. I know that a lot of you guys still accept check and cash and things like that, and that's totally fine, but that's going to slowly change, right? There's going to be more that are going to move towards this digital world, and the more that we can facilitate that and make your guys' lives easier, the more you guys are going to be able to sell, the greater the customer experience is going to be, so on and so forth, right? So, yeah. It might just need to be, Paul asked specifically what's the deposit speed. Yeah, we were just talking about that, Paul, and it's 2 days, and they might actually be able to speed it up even further once kind of the relationship has been built and the squeaky wheel, so to speak. We might also be able to just offer as a secondary service, if we can't get to that point naturally, is offering like a next day kind of deposit for a slight fee or whatever that ends up to offset the risk, right? So things like that are doable. So, but that's really one of the big things, Paul, that you mentioned there. That's really one of the big reasons why we wanted to look for a new partner, was that was just consistently too long. It's supposed to speed up over time. And it was never really supposed to be 5 days to begin with. So it was disappointing, kind of that communication we had with our partner and where they ended up. So good stuff. Okay, so what else is coming in the roadmap? So you guys are probably curious about that. So we break our roadmap up into two parts. We have a 30-day roadmap, which is basically, what's happening essentially to our next release, what's in like our current sprints for our developers, if you guys are familiar with agile development, things like that. Then we have a 6-month roadmap, which is just kind of looking at like, high level goals and initiatives we have, right? And what's driving that and what are the primary features behind that and so on and so forth. And so there's a couple that I'll kind of keep to myself for now. They'll eventually get brought up. They're a little bit further in the roadmap. But the big two items I want to make sure that everyone's kind of aware of that we're looking at later this year are SMS communication improvements, two-way texting, for example, and what that kind of grows into. Some really cool ideas. We have a prototype built in-house, kind of where we want this to go. I know it's a big feature that a lot of you guys have wanted, and so there's going to be plenty of focus on that. The other big one is tied to a customer portal. And that really helps drive a lot of other features around it as well. So, for example, right now, some of you guys might be using the estimate approval tool or using the online payment link. Both of those work great, but they're limited, right? Because they're a one-time link, and there's, it's harder for you to kind of do follow-ups to that. It has to be a new link each time, and so on and so forth. Or the example of maybe like a big commercial client, you have to send a link for every invoice, right? You can't just send a billing statement link. So there's some things there. Also, taking deposits is more difficult. We could add it to that online the estimate approval, but I think the better kind of process is that we build out a customer portal that allows kind of just a singular spot for your customers to go into, and you can drive just basic things like asking for deposits, getting your bills paid on time, and they can apply that to multiple invoices at the same time, being able to request work. Right? Even if at the start, it's just a basic message. It's just, hey, Paul, hey, Alan, I'm ready to come, get my carpets cleaned. I'm ready to come get my ducts cleaned, So little things like that expand over time, and having the customer portal be the home behind all that, I think is something that a lot of you guys would agree is probably something that everyone would want. So it's also going to drive a lot of development behind it. Like I said, a lot of expansion can kind of work off of that. So those are the big three we're working on. There are lots of other things we're working on in parallel as well. So as those get nearer each item, we'll talk more about them. We'll also talk more about the smaller features that are kind of tied into those, and so forth. So the other big thing, just kind of a general thing, is we're looking at some UI UX improvements. We've talked about this, I think, in either March or February. I forget which show it was, but we talked about this a little bit. We have kind of gone through and prototyped some UI UX improvements. This is both web and mobile. And our goal is to kind of do this in increments as best as we can. So it's not just like a complete overnight change. It's really just kind of like making improvements to the already, so it'll feel similar, just improved. So we're not going to just completely flip the switch and just say, hey, this is the new UI, and that's it. We want this to be kind of a gradual thing, but that also still has a big impact for you guys, both those who are long-time users and just kind of just get to have some new toys and new excitement and less clicks, right? Anytime we can help the experience out a little bit. And also when you guys are onboarding someone new, right? We want their experience when you bring in a new technician or new office staff to be like, wow, this is eye-popping. This is crazy. Like, I love this software, right? So that's what we want. Because we know those of you guys that could run this blindfolded, you guys all feel that way already because you guys are just masters in the machine, but we want that feeling for new users immediately, right? So those are the things we're working on. And again, there's other small things involved with that as well. So if that excites you, go ahead and throw something in the chat there. But yeah, the other thing I just want to mention is customer feedback. Something that we're really kind of driving as a big goal for 2024 is getting quality feedback more consistently from all of you. So some of you, like I joke, I talk with Alan and Paul here, for example, in chat quite often. So I feel like I get their feedback. They're also very vocal in SMUG, so we also get a lot of feedback there. But there are, it's not a handful. There's quite a few of you guys that I work with on a pretty consistent basis. I don't want to necessarily call you guys all power users, but guys and gals I've developed a relationship with, right, over time that we've had a lot of conversations about it. And those will continue. But what we want to do is kind of expand that also to essentially everybody, right, in different ways. And so if you guys are familiar with NPS, stands for Net Promoter Score, there's a bunch of rules behind it, like where it comes from. Don't need to get into it now, but it's really just something that we're launching that will allow you guys to give us direct feedback. You don't have to give us direct feedback if you don't want to. I'm not going to force the feedback out of you. But it's there for you if you guys want to give us feedback. And that'll basically help us make better decisions moving forward. So that's part of it. We're also going to be having quarterly meetings with groups of users and things like that. So some things that we'll be setting up to make sure that we're getting feedback from a lot of different types of users as well, and not just in certain verticals or with certain business setups or so on and so forth. So different stages of your business, all kinds of things like that. So those will both be coming sooner rather than later. NPS, I believe, will actually be launching relatively shortly. So be on the lookout for that. Give us feedback if you want, and we'll keep kind of our motto is basically to make this consistently better every day for you guys. So that's the goal. What else do we have? All right. Feature mention. Actually, I didn't test this, so hopefully this works. Justin, it does. Perfect. So I just want to show you guys a quick feature that I think we talked about right when it came out on release. We haven't really touched on it since. So I am in the settings, and I'm looking in our templates, and I'm just looking at SMS templates right now. And you can create whatever templates you need. So I've just got some basic generic ones in here, right? So I've got job confirmation. I've got a quick on our way text. I've got a running late text, things like that. But if you guys weren't aware, you can set these up to two options for your quick text. And so I can say, hey, I'm going to give our technicians an on our way and a running late text. I'm going to save that right now. And so this is something you guys can set, and you can move it around as needed. You can set up to two of these for just a one-touch option for yourself, for your technicians, for anyone else who's using the mobile app. So if that's something that might benefit you, it's there. There also might be some potential improvements for this on ways we can automate certain things on that later in the year as well. So again, I'll keep my voice quiet beyond that, but yeah, just stay tuned. So hope that that's useful though. Again, we're in settings, we're in templates, we're in SMS templates, just this quick text SMS box. Basically, any of the templates you've created, you can select up to two to have one touch option in the mobile app. All right, back to my pretty face. Let's get to some SMUG posts. Paul actually was one of these, so great job, Paul. There were actually a couple discussion points on this, so I felt it'd be a good one to talk about live. So he was asking about not being able to send a text message to site contacts specifically. So there's a billing address that might not be the same as the service location that you're doing the work, right? So you can set contacts, like maybe a property manager is a great example, right? So you've got Anna at the property manager office. Maybe that's who you primarily work with. You bill through her, etc. But when you're on site, you're either doing an empty room, or maybe there is a particular contact on site, if it's a homeowner, a rental for a home or something like that, right? So that's just one example. So talking about how do we maybe improve texting, reminders, automated messages, and things like that to contacts, and how that can basically work in a more fluent manner. And there's another user who posted a similar thing. His name was Eric. So you guys both are kind of on the same point there. And I really feel like to truly make this the best it can be, there needs to be kind of an overhaul. We don't have a great just contacts system. Everything's tied directly to either the site or the account. And it kind of breaks things up a little bit. So maybe a better way, kind of like a better way to manage that, which would then help our pipeline for SMS and so forth to be able to dial into those as needed. So I think what we're going to look at in the short term, though, is giving more options tied to the appointment reminder process, and then see how we can better identify the site contacts versus billing contacts there. And so at least solve the immediate problem before we kind of maybe find a more elegant long-term solution for how this can kind of look. So this is a perfect example, though. Paul was very clear as to the why. So he goes into kind of what the problem is, why he's having the problem, gives full context around it. He sent, I want to say, like 8 screenshots. So Paul and Alan are both listening. They're both great at this. The more context you give us when you guys have feature requests or things of that manner, the better off everything's going to be, because I'll really understand where the pressure point is, where the friction point is for you guys. And that extra context really helps us see kind of where the value add is, right? So we already kind of mentioned this for Eric, but he also had 2 other requests, one involving fuel surcharges, one involving kind of the parent-child function, which we kind of talked about as far as the billing. And again, kind of like the customer portal really ties into that billing process and how we can make that easier to bill at like a larger parent account level, right? The fuel surcharge, I've seen this a couple of times. Definitely ticks up whenever fuel prices increase, right? And I get it. Some of you guys have massive territories as well. I've seen some that are very local, like, if, distance-wise, maybe they're short, but they're in, really congested areas. So maybe you are still sitting in traffic quite a bit and burning fuel. But I've also seen those, like we've got a local guy who sometimes drives down to Seattle. He's got jobs that are in Seattle. He's got jobs that are in Point Roberts. If you guys are familiar with the Pacific Northwest, Point Roberts is that little tiny part of America that sticks out of Canada. So you've actually got to go up, go through customs, and come back down. It's the only way to get to it. So they've got ways where they have very specific days out of the month or year that go there. They just do all the work there on those days, right? So things like that. But Seattle trips are the same way, right? You know, they've got maybe, I think one of the big jobs he did was at the airport ones. That's a 100-mile trip, right? And so I totally get fuel surcharges, what that kind of looks like. I really would like to know more. If you guys kind of have an idea how you envision this, is there a certain threshold that you cross where the surcharge kicks in, should be baked into everything, and there's just certain levels of it? What does that really look like? Or if you've seen someone that you feel like has done it really well that you would like to kind of incorporate, or what your ideal calculation would look like. How much should it be per mile? How does that, be driven through your own settings? Should it automatically pick up based on a percentage of the, estimated fuel costs? Yada, yada, yada. There's lots of things we could get into there, but I think it's an interesting solve. And I think that there's a lot that we want to work on the schedule in general as far as route optimization, which can also tie into this, right? The more optimized the route, the less you might need to charge for fuel. So I think there's a couple of ways we can kind of look to address this, but I think it was outlined really well. I appreciate you, Eric. Another thing he actually mentioned specifically when he made this request, is this the right place to do this? And absolutely, SMUG is a great place for you guys to have your feature requests. You can also work through our support staff to them, or if you ever are in a conversation with me or on this live event, it's also another great place you guys can kind of put that. At least it's a starting point. Maybe not get into the specifics, probably pretty difficult to dive into anything really specifically, but at least we kind of get eyeballs on it, right? And there was one more I wanted to address. Robert had an issue. He had a brand new Samsung S24. He couldn't get the app to work on that. So if this happens to any of you guys, it's just tied to the Samsung S24 and the Google Pixel 8. If you have an issue with that, contact support. We have a way that we can get you in to kind of patch that. And the React Native upgrade that I talked about at the beginning of this will resolve this for everybody moving forward to make that more simple for everybody. But in the meantime, we do have a workaround. So if that does happen to any of you guys, can't get into the app, reach out to our support staff. They have a quick fix to get that running for you. So, whoo. Yeah, 30 minutes on the dot, basically, Justin. I think I nailed that there. If any of you guys in chat have any questions for me, go ahead and speak now. Forever hold your peace. We'll see you guys otherwise back in May. And again, our standard is we want to look at that second Friday of May. So I think we'd be looking at the 10th, I believe, is what we'll be targeting. It'll either be the 10th or the 17th. So we'll let you guys know ahead of time. You guys probably saw Justin's post a week ahead of time. That's our goal, is to give you guys more time to prep for these things so you can actually sit in them. But yeah, we'll see you guys back then. Paul had a great question really quick. What's the challenge of getting a search bar on the sidecar? Like a quick search within the schedule. That could be doable. Yeah, we did want to limit it to the page itself. Wouldn't want to have that. You can do a Control F for now, Paul, when you're on that page, and it'll scroll through that page if you're looking for something specifically. So that should help you in the interim, but I can see what that would look like and what kind of lift that would be, and to get back to you. Good stuff. Otherwise, guys, I appreciate you. We'll talk more next time in May, and hope everyone, again, is having a great spring and an even greater May. All right. See you next time.